Hey guys, welcome to Tigers Talk. This is season 2, the season of inspiration. I'm your host, Christopher Grant.
And I'm your co-host, Samantha Avila, and we're so happy to be back. Christopher, how are you doing this semester?
Good and bad. I'm so happy to be not being person as yet. I'm getting so used to being at home and having online classes. I really don't want to go back to in-person classes right now, Samantha.
I think, we definitely got used to being in person and being on our laptops more than in a classroom, but I'm kind of looking forward to going back in person. I'm looking forward to that day.
Well, hope they do it after I graduate. Anyways, we have a wonderful episode for you today. We're about to start, but just before we do that, we're about to go for a break. Tigers Talk will be right back.
Welcome back. We're going to go ahead and kick off our community countdown segment where we talk about the top 5 picks for events happening in and around Auburn's campus. Because this is our first show of the semester, we're going to use this week's top 5 to take an opportunity and update you on some events that happened at the beginning of the semester. In our number 5 spot, we have Auburn University vaccinating students and staff. Christopher, how do you feel about this?
This is one of the strides that Auburn University is taking in getting back to some level of normalcy, and I like it. I like it because it gives us hope. We've had a strenuous year last year. It was tough, and at one point we thought, is this ever going to be over? And we know there are new strains of COVID-19 and all of that, but the mere fact that we have taken these strides to vaccinate students, vaccinate staff, it makes me feel good, and it's a good sense of hope.
And the opportunity I think that we have to get that vaccine is incredible. I actually was able to receive my vaccine, both the first and second dose, last Friday, and I didn't have any symptoms. My arm was a bit sore, but that was really it. I know that some of my fellow students had other reactions to the second vaccine, but I was thankfully okay. And I think that, like you said, this is a great way to go back to normalcy. It's a step forward, and hopefully people will believe in the vaccine, take it, and this is the way that we come back. And this is the start of the end.
So in our number 4 spot this week, Auburn University announced that in the fall, we will go back to full capacity physical classes. Now, I spoke about this in the intro. I'm not too excited, but I also believe that we need to go back to some level of normalcy, because when you're at home, you don't have the same level of motivation than compared to when you're in the classroom. When you're in the classroom, I personally feel motivated. Maybe some people prefer online like me right now because I'm so lazy and don't want to go back to class, but it is the full experience of college. You don't get the full college experience in your bedroom.
Exactly.
You get it in the classes.
Yeah, no, and I think, since you and I will be seniors when we go back in August, which is crazy to say, I think it'll be really cool to get at least 1 or 2 semesters of normalcy back. And even though it took us a while to get used to online learning, it might also take us a while to go back to what used to be normal, but it's another, experience that I'm very excited to get back to. And in our number 3 spot, Rhett Wagner was named Auburn University's newest SGA president. Christopher, I know that you were really watching all the campaign videos and everything that these campaigns had to do about social media, so how do you feel about that?
As you said, I was watching these campaigns and I felt like I was watching the presidential election again. It was a nice feel because I was not this invested in it last year because it wasn't online. I would just be walking around campus, people be saying, did you vote today? Did you vote today? And I'm like, what did I vote for? Like, what must I vote for? But because of COVID, they had all of this online and I was able to participate. I must mention Tyler Ward, his campaign online was very engaging. He had lots of TikTok videos. I saw them running across my screen every time I scroll. I don't know why, but this is what a campaign is about, and it's a part of our college life, and we need to experience this at least once.
Exactly, yeah, and I think, like you said, each candidate kind of took their own way of social media, how they went about making videos or TikToks, and this year, I think more than any year that I've been here, I also agree, was very engaging, and more than ever, I was more into the election season and what it really means.
And in the number 2 spot, Caroline Kime was announced as the next Miss Auburn. I really want to talk about her campaign because her campaign stressed removing the stigma from counseling And I believe that there is no better time or was no better time for her to bring up a campaign like that, especially in COVID-19 where people are having financial stress, people are having mental stress because they can't see their families. You don't want to go see, some people haven't seen their parents and grandparents since COVID started because they don't want to transmit the virus. And it's so hard to think that people think they might seem crazy if they go seek counsel. And people need to understand that seeking counsel from your friend, if you had a bad day and you say, hey, do you want to talk about it to your friend? And they talk about it. It's the same thing as going to a professional. Maybe the professional has the strategies or the professional strategies to take you through that. But it's a similar thing, and it's not something that we're supposed to be ashamed of. It's something that is a part of life, and we all need somebody to talk to sometimes.
And in the #1 spot, Auburn University will be renaming 2 residence halls after the first Black graduate and the first Black member of the Board of Trustees. Christopher, I could not be more excited about this. I think this announcement is long overdue. I'm very excited for this, and this announcement was made during Black History Month, which is also just perfectly timed, and I think this is the beginning of Auburn kind of moving forward, and I really, really like this.
Yes, especially with the year that we had last year, with all these protests and all of that. I believe that that Auburn University is doing right here is a bold statement for the future, and they couldn't have done anything better.
I agree, Christopher. That's it for our community countdown. When we come back, Christopher will sit down and speak with former Auburn track star and Olympic medalist Kieran Stewart. We'll see you after the break.
Hey guys, welcome back to Tigers Talk. I'm your host, Christopher Grant, and as you know, season 2 is all about inspiration, the season of inspiration. And who better to have as our first guest than Kieran Stewart, a 3-time Olympic medalist, a 5-time World Championship medalist, one of Auburn's past most decorated track athlete, and one of the fastest women ever in the world. Jamaica's fastest 100-meter runner, Kieran Stewart. Hey, Kieran, how are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for that introduction and reminding me of some of my accomplishments.
You are deserving of all of that. You worked for it. And I just want to know, you retired from track in 2018. What's life been like after that?
It's different. Still adjusting. The transition, as we know, is not easy from doing something that you have been doing pretty much your whole life. So the transition is not easy, but I am adjusting and just trying to make the best of it. But I still miss athletics in terms of the competition, but definitely not the training, but just being in that atmosphere of athletics, I'll say I definitely miss.
Definitely not missing the training, I can understand. I see on your Instagram you're doing photography now. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yes, I've been doing photography for a while. It's something that I love and I enjoy doing, but it is nothing like track and field, of course, because that's what I truly love. But I believe in using all your gifts and all your talents that God gives you. And that is just what photography is for me. It's something that I enjoy doing, and I have a good eye. It allows me to seize the moment and taking time to enjoy that moment and just to enjoy nature, because that's what most of my photography is about.
Right in line with my next question, one of the things that people see with athletes, they just see you run, they just see you race, they love you for your winnings, but they don't recognize that you're more than that. And a part of that, making you a great athlete, is your dedication behind the scenes at practice. You go through so many injuries, so many obstacles. Walk me through some of the obstacles that you faced prior to making your first senior team in 2008 and how you managed to overcome all of that.
I think what makes the journey so much more rewarding is actually the things that you go through, right? The things that make you not take the rewards for granted, you know, the things that make you not take your talent for granted. Um, I remember in 2007, that was my final year as a collegiate athlete. And my first professional race, I didn't even get to compete because I tore my hamstring. I went to the meet, was warming up for my race, and I was like, Coach, something is off. And I remember warming up and I made my first stride. And I was like, yeah, this is it. Something is wrong. I don't think I will be able to compete. And I had to go to the doctor right away, and we did a scan, and it showed that I had fiber tear. So it was a good thing I actually listened to my body and said, you know what, something is wrong. And my coach and my manager just trusted my decision not to run, and it paid off. So that's one of the ups and downs of track and field, and the side that people don't really get to see. They just see the results and see what is produced on that day. But it's so much work, it's so much pain, and it's so much sacrifice.
You're absolutely right. I can empathize with that. You're one of the athletes that always stresses the mental side of the sport. You always talk about the psychology of sports. And how important do you think that is right now in the society that we are right now, in the time that we are right now with COVID-19? Track and field meets are being put off, athletes are being caught in close contact, and a lot of athletes are stressing out about it, and it's just hard. How does the mental side come in that aspect right now?
Uh, you know, Mental preparedness is vital. It's vital to life, and it's vital to sports. We're always told that the mental part of sports is 90%, and the physical part is is 10%. So if sports is 90% mental, and we work so much more on the physical aspect of sports, then we kind of set ourselves up to fail. So now, especially, we are dealing with something that we have never seen before. We are still learning to adjust as to how to handle COVID-19. And I always say this: I can only control the things that I am in control of. So something like COVID-19 is not something that I can control. However, what you can control is, how well do I prepare mentally, right? What are the things that I can do? What are the things that I can work on to be better? The good thing is, you don't always have to go to a psychologist, or but you can find information. You can read books. There are so many books out there that encourages you as to how to be mentally prepared, how to be mentally tough. And the thing is to stay away from too much information, like the negative stuff. Just try to stay away from that stuff. We have to stay with the things that are going to help us, that are going to put our minds at ease, that is going to help you to grow as a better person. So those are really the stuff that we can work on.
So much fruitful information in that. There's so much you said a while ago that we can take away from the mental side, just how we prepare and how we have to adjust to this society. I really appreciate you saying that you are one of the fastest women ever. And that's just saying that is, I'm in awe. But what are some of the attributes that you learned from track? Some of the things you learned during your professional years, during your collegiate years that you take with you throughout life right now that is useful, some of those attributes or attitudes that are helping you right now?
Well, there's so much. It's just my resilience, and that it's okay when things fall apart. Everything don't have to go right. It's just, the most important thing is, when things fall apart, I can't give up. Right? There is always a way, and you have to take a step back to say, okay, what can I do different? What can I learn from this situation, because sometimes we go through life and things happen to us and we don't take the time to learn. So those are some of the things that I learned from track and field. I also learned to communicate, right? I learned to communicate better, to express my feelings more, to say, this is what I think is best for me. What are your thoughts, right? So I have to also learn to take control, that yes, I have my coach and I have my manager, but it is still my responsibility as to how my career turns out. I've learned to, make decisions that are going to not just affect me now, but will affect my future as well. So those are some of the things that I take away from track and field that I think is still helping me now to be a better person. And especially now that I am coaching, I try to communicate effectively, because I know once I communicate effectively, then I will get the results that I desire.
That advice that you just given us, that's not just applicable to athletes, it's applicable to everyone who is trying to achieve something in life. It's like the pain is temporary, as they would say.
Yes.
And you've just put it in the most profound way ever. Karen, I thank you so much for your time. You are an
You're
inspiration to
welcome.
me and my teammates and many people across the world. And yes, from Jamaica, we love you. And
Thank you.
War Eagle, thanks so much for being
War
here.
Eagle.
Tiger Stock, we'll be right back.
Welcome to our Say What segment, where you, the viewers, get to be part of our show. This week's question of the week is, what are your thoughts on having wellness days instead of spring break?
And our first response comes from @Justin_Stringfellow on Instagram, who said, the weather sucked and I had a test the next day. I don't feel like I had a break. Justin, I can relate. The weather sucked, but the good thing about it is that we could stay home all day. And I like that.
Yeah, and I also had 2 projects, so I was also kind of busy, wasn't able to do much, but it was nice to sleep in at least an hour or 2 more. And our second response comes from Court Ann 25, who said, it's not the same and homework should not have been allowed to be due on a wellness day. Court Ann, I am very sorry that you had homework due on a wellness day. That does not sound fun. Hopefully next wellness day you have nothing due.
Wow, homework due on wellness day, that's interesting. Okay, our next response comes from @DontaviusHill3 on Instagram, who said, it's to prevent COVID, but I would prefer having spring break for sure. I believe many of us share the same sentiment, and I just gotta say, we gotta compromise for COVID. And if we wanna get back to normalcy or some level of normalcy soon, we gotta do these things and give up something. And sadly, spring break is the thing that we gotta give up at
Yes,
this time.
I agree. I think spring break would have been way more fun than a couple of wellness days here or there, but like you said, we have to compromise, and hopefully this is a good step, and I think the university was great in putting us at least a couple of days to relax. And our fourth response comes from Allison J. Tanner, who says, they're a nice breather, but not as fun as spring break. Again, I also agree. I think that spring break would have been really nice. However, I think it's important to realize that if students and people who are around Auburn's campus aren't responsible, this is how we have to deal with it. So I think it's a good part on Auburn University to have these wellness days to give us at least something of a break.
Agreed.
Sadly, that's the end of our show. However, it's not the end of our season. We are just getting started, and we are very excited for all the things we have in store for you.
Remember to follow us on Instagram at AU Tigers Talk Show and on Twitter at AU Tigers Talk. That's it for our show today. Tigers Talk, echoing roars.